chosen one, this message did not reach you by accident. Out of all the voices, all the digital noise, and all the competing distractions pulling for your attention in this very moment, something greater has guided you here. There is a divine architecture at play, a design that does not make mistakes. Something has been watching over your path for far longer than you realize, and it has led you to this specific junction. These 3 days, June 1st, June 2nd, and June 3rd, carry a profound spiritual weight that most people around you simply cannot feel. It is a prophetic window that God has opened specifically for those who have been set apart for a higher purpose. If something deep within your spirit urged you to stop and lean into this message when you could have been anywhere else, you already understand what your soul is whispering. This appointment was made for you. Whether you have just arrived at the opening of this window, whether you are settling into its quiet center, or whether you feel like you are standing in its final turning hours, the truth remains the same. The invitation is still active, and the signal is still being broadcast. God does not rush the closing of his windows for those he has chosen. There is a sacred pattern that runs through the very language of God. The pattern of 3. Think of the 3 days in the deep before the breakthrough, the 3 days of fasting before the palace doors swung open, or the 3 days of waiting before the stone was rolled away, and everything changed. God consistently moves in 3s when he is shifting someone from one state of existence into another. Right now, in this specific window, he is moving something that belongs entirely to you. These 3 days are not a warning about punishment. They are a warning about what you stand to lose if you remain asleep to the potential God is placing in your hands today. The cost of ignoring this window is not a divine penalty. It is something much quieter, and in many ways, far more devastating. It is the cost of living another season below the ceiling of what God actually designed you to be. That cost compounds with every single day that passes without the signal in your life coming fully online. You have felt it, haven't you? That persistent nagging sense that you were meant to be living at a completely different level. There is an ache in your soul that recognizes you are larger than your current circumstances. That quiet, internal frustration you feel when you watch time pass while the fullness of your calling feels just slightly beyond your reach. That is not a delusion. It is not an overactive imagination. It is a signal. This message is here to help you decode that signal and to show you exactly what you are being invited to do within these 3 days. This is the active, vibrating frequency of someone whom God has positioned at a specific design point. Being a chosen one is not a title you give yourself. It is a weight of responsibility earned through preparation, through being shaped, tested, refined, broken down, and rebuilt until what remains is the vessel God needs to carry exactly what he is about to release in this season. Most chosen ones, however, never fully understand one critical reality. Being chosen does not automatically guarantee you will operate in the fullness of your assignment. Most people who carry the mark of a divine calling spend the vast majority of their lives running on a mere fraction of their actual God-given capacity. This isn't because God is withholding power from you, but because something has been placed between you and the full, clear signal of who you are. Consider it like driving through heavy fog. You know the road is still there, and you know your destination is real, but the density of the fog limits your speed, clouds your clarity, and cripples your confidence in what lies around the next turn. Most chosen ones are navigating their lives through this exact kind of spiritual fog. They have been in it for so long that they have mistakenly begun to believe that this restricted vision is the normal condition of the journey. They have stopped expecting to see clearly. These 3 days, June 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, are what happens when God reaches into that fog with a specific, clarion instruction. He is not asking you to try harder or to perform a more disciplined version of your current self. He is asking you to receive. He is inviting you to tap into something ancient, something that was designed for you before the first light ever touched the earth. You were chosen before you were ever formed. That is not a motivational platitude. It is a declaration of your divine intent. Before your parents gave you a name, before you took your first breath, and before the world had any record of your existence, God set you apart for a purpose that requires you to operate at a level the world has been trying to talk you out of since the moment you arrived. And honestly, the world has done a remarkable job of it. It doesn't always happen through obvious attacks, but through something far more subtle and persistent. It happens through the steady accumulation of limitation language, through the voices that first told you that you were too much, and then later whispered that you were not enough. It happens through systems designed to reward conformity, and to make your extraordinary capacity feel like a liability. It happens through the people who loved you, but simply could not see the magnitude of what God had placed inside you. Pause here, because what I am about to say is the part of this message that most people are never told. It is the information that will determine whether these 3 days become a genuine, life-altering turning point, or whether they simply pass like every other season that held a door you didn't realize you were allowed to walk through. This window was designed specifically for you. The reason most chosen ones aren't living in the fullness of their assignment isn't a spiritual failure. It is actually biological. The divine design that makes you different, the frequency that others sense when you walk into a room, all of it flows through a specific neural pathway in your brain. For the vast majority of people who carry a calling, that pathway is almost entirely dormant. This is not a metaphor. The human brain contains regions that the world's most accomplished neuroscientists openly admit remain poorly understood. These are areas that light up during states of deep prayer and profound spiritual experience, areas that, in most people, remain almost entirely inactive across an entire lifetime. They are not damaged and they are not absent. They are simply dormant, waiting like a room that was built with perfect precision, fully furnished and perfectly designed, but with every light switched off. Ancient mystics called this capacity by different names across various traditions. The early Desert Fathers described it as the opening of the inner eye. Monastic orders across centuries built entire disciplines around the singular goal of activating it. They fasted for it. They prayed without ceasing for it. They created structured, intense periods of preparation, often lasting exactly 3 days, because their deep experience told them that 3 days was the specific threshold at which something shifted in the interior life of a prepared person. The most sacred examples in Scripture confirm what these mystics discovered through experience. There were 3 days of preparation before God descended on the mountain, 3 days of consecration before Israel crossed into their inheritance, 3 days of fasting and intercession before Esther walked into the presence of the king and received the authority she needed. It is always 3. 3 days is the rhythm God uses when the inner ground of a chosen person is being prepared to receive what heaven is ready to release. Type the word chosen in the comments right now if you feel this message reaching a part of you that has been waiting a very long time to be found. Type chosen if something in you has always known that a season like this would come, and that when it arrived, you would recognize it immediately. What God is doing in this 3-day window is not symbolic. He is creating a specific resonance. He is aligning your inner readiness with the grace He has attached to these days, where the dormant pathways of those He has called are more receptive than at any other moment. This is the architecture of breakthrough. This is why the prophets prepared for 3 days before major declarations. This is why the most dramatic divine interventions in history arrived on the 3rd day, not the 1st. You are here because you were supposed to be here, not just in this message, but in this specific convergence in time. The world around you is changing at a pace that many find disorienting. Structures that seemed permanent are showing fractures. Systems that have operated for generations are shifting in ways that feel unstable to those who do not understand what the shifting is preparing. In the middle of all that, God is searching for the ones whose inner capacity is fully active and fully available. You have been in preparation for longer than you realize. Every experience that pressed you past what you thought you could endure, every season that felt like a delay but was actually development, every test that stripped away the unnecessary and revealed The essential, all of it has been building toward this moment. The grace of this window belongs to you, but you must choose to receive it while it remains open. Now let me tell you what this window is warning you against. The title of this message carries a weight that deserves a precise explanation. Ignoring this prophetic date will cost you, but the cost is not what you might assume. It is not divine punishment. It is something far more personal and lasting. There are two kinds of chosen ones in any prophetic season: those who recognize the appointment and respond within the window, and those who feel the invitation, acknowledge its reality, but defer it for a more favorable moment. The second group does not necessarily forfeit their calling, but they do forfeit the window. What God placed inside that specific window does not simply transfer to the next available opening. God is bringing something specific to you in these 3 days, a specific grace for a specific unlocking. Cost of missing it is not catastrophic in a way the world would easily recognize. Life will continue, but you will continue at a lower setting than God originally designed. That gap, the distance between the life you are living and the life you were built to inhabit, is a gap whose compounding cost most chosen ones only recognize in hindsight, when they look back and see exactly where the window was. How many times have you felt a call like this and set it aside for a time that seemed less demanding? That settling moment is one of the most consistently deceptive promises the enemy makes. Circumstances rarely arrive at this settled state. The enemy promises, and the specific grace attached to this window will not wait through your delay. There is a force that has been working against your shift for as long as you can remember. It is not supernatural in origin, though the enemy makes full use of it. It is something embedded in the neural architecture of the modern human mind. Scientists call it neural suppression, the process by which the brain, in an attempt to manage the overwhelming volume of daily input, systematically dims down pathways that do not appear immediately necessary for survival. In an ancient world, this served a function. In the modern world, for a chosen one, it is a significant limitation. The pathways that carry your highest capacity, the pathways through which your divine signal flows into actual expression, are not the pathways your brain prioritizes for basic survival. They are the pathways that have been quietly dimming since you were a child. The voice that called your sensitivity excessive was training your brain to suppress it. The environment that rewarded conformity was training your brain to mute the very capacity that makes you different. This suppression happens without your permission and without your awareness. You don't choose to be less than you were designed to be. You simply wake up season after season and discover that the fullness of what you felt in your most alive moments now feels like a fading memory. That is not spiritual failure. That is biological reality. You have been running with a suppressor built into your system. But a suppressor can be lifted. Once the interference is removed, the signal returns to its full strength. The capacity hasn't evaporated. It is simply waiting like a seed under winter ground for the conditions that allow it to finally open. These 3 days are those conditions. Type awaken in the comments if you are ready to stop accommodating a suppressed signal as your permanent ceiling, and are finally ready to step into the version of yourself that God designed.